one has any issues or concerns, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Looking forward to the day when we don't have to do this on a tiny little screen. Be nice to actually see people, and I guess there's light at the end of the tunnel. We may do that again someday, for all we know. The first item on the agenda, of course, is the disclosure of any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Unless anyone speaks out, we'll assume no one has one or any. Okay. Okay, welcome to whoever's out there and watching this meeting on June the 2nd. We have an agenda, of course, you've all read it. Any concerns or problems with the agenda? I'm assuming that we can confirm that it is indeed the agenda, and we're going to follow that. The minutes you've all received earlier, so you're in a position to, if anyone has any comments or thoughts on the minutes. I see no hands, so I'm assuming there are no issues for that. So, shall we move along? I think Dorothy's awaiting an opportunity to talk about the Elora sculpture project. So I think it's time to hand it over to Dorothy. Thanks, Dorothy.
Thanks, Brian. If you see me looking off to the side, it's because I've got notes that I'd like to refer to so I don't forget anything. So I just want to make comments. First of all, in my most recent comments for the McDonald Sculpture Project, as you know, has been with the chair of the Elora Arts Council and Arts and Public Places Committee, Beverly Carnes. I want to just let you know her position with this. So Beverly is an Elora resident, and she's a sculptor, and she's acting on her own behalf. I want to advise the committee that Beverly is not a member of the Elora Sculpture Committee project, which I wasn't sure of at the last meeting. I've received confirmation she is not. So I just wanted to clear up any misrepresentation and information that came out of the last meeting, and just to clarify her position moving forward. And then secondly, what I'd like to suggest is more time. I'd like to bring a full report to this committee in July to update them on the project. So as you know, the McDonald funding has been going on for 3 years now, I believe, 4 years. It's been a while. I know I can't remember a lot of things from last week, so I don't expect a lot of people to remember everything from the last several years. So I want to put together a report that itemizes everything that has transpired with this project. I think it's important that the committee has all the information in front of them before you make any decision on anything. So my recommendation is to defer this discussion until the next meeting, and we'll keep it on the agenda as a placeholder and give me time to put together that report for July, and that would be great. I think I covered everything I needed to talk about. And
okay, so, okay, that's great. That meeting in July, we'll look at a fulsome report and have the information we need to continue, if we can, this interesting project.
Pat, do we need to make a recommendation, like a motion?
No,
Sorry.
but I see that Dean's hand is up. That's
Yeah.
okay. No, we do not need a motion to just put it on next month's agenda.
I was just
Okay,
going to have
Dean?
just one more question, Dorothy. So who is leading the committee now? Basically, I think it seems to be very confusing on our end. That's the people that were originally offered the grant money are no longer part of it. So how are we going about that same committee is still involved and they're the go-to people for this?
So the committee that we have an agreement with still exists. There are some committee members from that group that have either retired or moved away. So they have, I believe it's a much smaller group, but the chair of the committee is still the same contact person I've been working with over the last few years. The chair of the Art and Public Places person, like I said, she is not part of that committee. She is just an interested resident sculptor who wants to make sure we don't lose sight of this project. She wants this, and she's willing to help us move it forward. Whatever way, shape, or form that's going to look like, we don't know yet. Again, another reason why we need a little bit more time so I can put together this report, and I'm in communication with her often. Does that
That's
answer
great.
your question?
Clarification.
Okay, good.
Okay. Any other questions to Dorothy about this? So we just carry on, that will be on the next agenda.
I will have a full report for July. Thank you.
Thanks, Dorothy. Appreciate your work. The next item is back from the last meeting, and this is the neighborhood wellness issue, the discussion about how we might go about creating a body or a body of activity that will support a suggestion, a proposal by Councillor Kittredge. We, at the time, last meeting, didn't have a precise knowledge, or we supported the idea, but we didn't really have a go forward thought about how we would carry on with that. So we needed some time to think about it. We have some more information here, and so we can turn to that memo. And who wants to start Pat, do you want to speak to that, please?
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to probably repeat a little bit of what you said, but I just had a brief verbal update with this memo. And in January, Councillor Kittredge introduced the idea of the Neighbourhood Wellness Program through a notice of motion. And with that motion was the recommendation to create a new community well-being and neighborhood hospitality task force with specific criteria. I have to look at my notes as well, so I turn away. At the March 29th council meeting, the notice of motion was discussed and staff supported the idea and provided a more grassroots approach and suggested a one-year pilot program and create a neighborhood grant connectivity program. Council was supportive of the program, but uncertain of the best approach. So they asked each party to present to CSAC and provide recommendations on the best approach to take. In the memo, in the agenda today, staff have provided some options for CSAC's discussion and options for wordings of recommendations. These are only options provided to assist CSAC in the discussion and not intended as the only outcomes of your discussion today. So there were three options, A, B, and C, to review. And I guess I would just turn it over for your conversation. But if there's any questions about this topic, staff are here to provide clarity and direction on how we got here and what is being asked of CSAC. Hopefully that helps sort of lay the framework for your conversation today. So
basically, either CSAC itself creates a subcommittee, or we recruit some citizens to be part of a body, like its own subcommittee, not a subcommittee of ours, but a body specifically geared towards organizing or taking the idea forward, or it's a project for the staff and the township staff. Is that an accurate summary? Okay, go ahead, Pat.
You're close to what the three are saying. The first one is right. It's that CSAC would have an active role in developing the protocols and terms of reference for a grassroots neighborhood wellness program. So that can be either the whole committee or a subcommittee of CSAC. The second option is that it would actually go, all of these are recommendations to council. And so the second one is where CSAC just returns to council and recommends that actually council establish the task force, not CSAC. That was the only thing that was a little bit different from what you had said. And the third one is for CSAC to recommend to council that just township staff develop this community-led grassroots wellness program. and of course, combinations of those, but the Wellness Task Force, that would be as per Stephen Kittrus's request, and that would be going back to council to form, because that would be a separate committee of council than what is considered CSAC.
Jennifer?
Sorry, the council will establish the subcommittee or the committee will establish the subcommittee? I think in the report.
Yeah, I totally get where it's confusing.
Yeah.
So all three options require CSAC to make a recommendation to go back to council. Because
Perfect.
council said, how should we do this?
Okay.
In the first one, we're saying the option there is that the recommendation is that CSAC will be the committee or subcommittee of CSAC. And they would not create the subcommittee, CSAC would.
Okay.
The second one is council makes another task force, which is a committee of council, and would not be associated with CSAC whatsoever. And then the third one, again, is just that staff would develop the grassroots program outside of any committee or CSAC. Those are the three that are open there for discussion. Of course, you may want to make something different, but that's basically what was presented as options to CSAC going forward.
Grace?
I'm just trying to understand. So there's an A, B, and C, which are the options. And then under that, there's a 1, 2, 3. I don't understand that. Can you clarify that? And then my other question is, I thought, so if one of those is a suggest, then Kittrus would be involved. And I thought at the last meeting, we were told that he could not be involved because of some reason.
Okay, so I'll just explain the report. A, B, and C are lay terms, speaking of your options, trying to lay it out in layman's terms. What is offered in 1, 2, and 3 are specific wording for resolutions, so that it's the full resolution that you would state and vote on. That's just to help us to understand. But 1 relates to A, B relates to 2, and C relates to 3. That's
Okay.
why, I'm sorry for that confusion.
And then what's the proposed motion underneath? Does that refer to the one that Kittrus would be involved in?
That would be B. So B and number 2 are the same item. B being just
Okay.
that it explains that you would go back to council and do this, and the wording of it is based on what was in his motion to ask for a wellness task force consisting of 1 councillor and 6 citizens. But I think, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 2 councillors and 6 citizens was in his motion.
His actual notice of motion is attached
Okay.
and at the end. And again, that's totally up to council. That would be council's decision, how much they accept of the notice of motion.
So
your
is
recommendation,
Kittrus allowed to be involved with this? I thought,
So Grace, I think what you were concerned about there is the last motion is actually the motion that Councillor Kittrus brought before council. So the 3 options that are laid out, if we decide to establish a subcommittee of this committee, then Councillor Kittrus cannot be on that committee because he has no standing in this committee. You can
Okay.
put citizens from outside this committee on it, but he's different. He's a councillor. He's elected, so he has to follow the rules of council. So that's why the middle one says, do you want to go back to council, tell council that you create a task force, and that way Councillor Kittrus could be back on it. Or we could say, you know what, we have an idea here where it's been done in other communities and most of the work's been done. Just have staff deal with it and cut to the chase. So those are basically the 3 options. And I know there was a lot of discussion last time, and was there any communication with you, Brian, from Councillor Kittrus on this?
There was not, no.
Okay, all right. Okay, good enough. We'll leave it at that. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this.
Okay, well, let's discuss it. Jennifer, I see your hand first.
Yeah, well, I kind of feel I'm not leaning towards if we're looking at the options B, because I feel like it was council that had made the recommendation that there already was a community services advisory and to come to us for the advice. So just to kind of turn it back over to them to decide to make another recommendation, I'm kind of leaning against that one. I do feel that staff presented Kendra Martin specifically some good information. She seems like she's well experienced in this in other communities. And I think it's something that everybody around the table last time was thoroughly supportive of, but we just really weren't sure exactly what the direction was from us to be expected. So this report, I think, provides that kind of direction to us, which is great. So, but I also see in discussion last time with how much is involved, that there could be some benefit in establishing a subcommittee within CSAC, which I know that the subcommittee could include some non-committee members if, we felt that there wasn't enough of us to make that commitment. So right now I could probably be swayed with like a or C option. That's kind of my opinion, kind of start things off.
Anyone else want to say something? What, Jennifer? I mean, Kim?
In the piece that Kittredge had included, Councillor Kittredge had included, he's actually requesting that he be a part of this. Is he wanting to just organize, like, I don't know if you know this, is he just wanting to organize it, or is he actually wanting to like hit the ground running with it and be a major part of it? Like, is he just wanting to kick off the initiative, or is he wanting to actually be a part of the whole thing? Like if it's something that's running, if anybody knows.
Anybody know?
Nobody knows. Neil?
I think it's
Neil's
a
got
$1 million
hand.
question, and I've had a difficulty listening to this.
That's one of the reasons why I kind of support B. But anyway, go ahead, Neil.
I've listened to this motion. I've read this motion. I've listened to it explained to this committee and explained to council 3 times, and I had great difficulty figuring out exactly what it was that he wanted. And I have heard that he really what he was talking about was creating a manual. And to me, I think that's what Kendra Martin has put together and what other townships have already put together. So I'm really for this. I thank Councillor Kittredge for putting it on the docket and getting us moving on this. And I'd like to see us move swiftly on it. And I think the way it's been organized in other communities has worked, and it depends on neighborhood organizations coming together. But it gives me, and I say this as a counselor, it gives me comfort, because there is accountability, because we are looking at putting some funds towards this, and that's taxpayers' funds, and we have to have accountability in that measure. So that's kind of the reason that I was leaning towards Kendra's. So I know it's been a very confusing situation from start to finish, and like I said, that's my understanding of it. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And would this fall within her job description? I mean, we're not laying some great new task on her, or she seemed very interested in doing it, as I recall.
Yeah, I think the direction would be that you would indicate staff support, and then obviously that is up to our CAO who would be appointed. But Kendra has indicated an interest. She is the one who put the presentation together, and it would fit within her job description. So I see her as one of the staff that could support this program. But I don't think I'm not sure, maybe someone else would want to comment. I don't think we can say it has to be Kendra Martin. I think we could say her position would be the right thing. I'm not sure, Carrie, if you want to comment on that.
Okay, I see what you mean.
No,
Dorothy? Oh, sorry, Pat, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry, I had my
Actually,
mute.
Carrie.
Go ahead, Carrie. I had my mute on while I was telling you to go.
oh, no, I really didn't have anything else to add. I think Pat said it well enough, I think.
I guess my question is, and I thought we talked about this, but I'm getting confused. If it's staff driven and staff developed with grant application policy. Will the applications come back to this committee to make a recommendation to council? Maybe? Your hand was blue, it blended in with your background.
My floating arm, Brian, is up, but it keeps disappearing.
Yeah,
I was just,
I see
yeah.
it. I was waiting for Dorothy to finish. Go ahead.
I guess, sorry, I got cut off a little bit there. Thank you. I was going to say, once again, these are recommendations that are here for your conversation. So you could select number 3 and request that CSAC be part of the approval process for granting. That might be the role you feel is acceptable, or that is your discretion to recommend back to council, I think.
Okay.
Jennifer's hands up.
Yep, I see it. Jennifer?
Yeah, I'm actually just rereading the number 3 option. So if we had Kendra go ahead and draft this up, what she is drafting, I think what we're hearing too is like, we want to make sure the community is involved. But when you look at it, she's looking to develop a community-led grassroots neighborhood wellness program. And she spoke about the program in Kitchener, which was like based on this whole, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but like an asset-based approach with, you know, does mobilize the strengths and stuff within those communities. So my feeling is that within the guidelines and everything that she's going to be developing, it's going to work in kind of that consultation and stuff that we're looking for from the community, which is what I think what also a subcommittee could provide. But I think if we allow staff to kind of start, then it doesn't delay that. We can kind of have a starting point. It could come back. But I think it would, like, I think we could look at it again as a committee when we have all those policies and stuff, and we can see if like those kind of checks and stuff are in place, right? Like ensuring that that community-led kind of consultative approach is within those guidelines. So yeah, I'm strongly kind of supportive of number 3. Strongly, not strongly, kind of.
Yeah. Do we, Kurt,
Sure.
welcome. Is Pat?
Thanks. Just for clarity, Jen, I just want to make sure that what you're suggesting is number 3, but that the program be returned back to CSAC for review and approval to council before it goes to council. Is that sort of what you're suggesting? Is you like number 3, but there would be the terms of reference and the framework of the program developed by staff would have a check-in with CSAC and then go to council and then be a program moving forward. Is that your recommendation?
That's
for
kind of
clarity?
exactly. That's what I was seeing. And like I said, it would be my desire to see within what she develops there, talk about how it would be a community-led and how that would all take place. Yes, yes.
Okay. Grace, did you want to say something?
I was just sort of curious. So if we go with number 3, Kitris would not be involved at all. Is that correct? Like he's the one that came forward with this idea, right? But he would not be able to be involved with it at all. Do any of us see a problem with that? Or is there some way he can be involved? Because number 3 appeals to me, but I'm just wondering if there's a way that Kitris, he came up with the idea. He must be excited about it.
Pat, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in the framework of working with CSAC or a subcommittee of CSAC, he would not be able to be part of it.
But number 3 would be a
Yep.
subcommittee, right?
See, number 3 would be the staff creating the program. And then all these options eventually return back to council for final approval. And that is where Councillor Kitris has his vote and his input to the program. But he wouldn't be part of the development of the program or part of a committee that's developing the program. unless you select number 2, where a brand new task force is created, of which he would be on. And he would, assuming he's the one counselor and 6 citizens that would be part of that program. Is that, sorry, did I clarify that? Make sense to you, Grace, or more unclear?
Yeah, I guess my question was, yeah, it's all a little confusing for me.
I just want to clarify, because he's a counselor, I think Neil put this really clear. As a counselor, he has to follow the rules of council first, which means that if he becomes a member of a committee, it's not the same as a general citizen becoming a member of a committee. And that is where the line kind of is drawn. And I'm not sure if Councillor Dunsmore would like to comment further on that, but that is my understanding of why he would be treated differently than any other citizen who would want to be part of this program. Because he has that vote at council, and we already have committees of council, and they are appointed by the mayor, not by this group. Did I do that right,
I think
Gary?
so, yeah.
Yeah, it's clear.
If I misstep, somebody's got to jump in and help me. Thanks.
At this point, there seems to be a general consensus. We haven't voted on it or anything, that's leaning towards some variation of the third option, which is to have staff create a, I don't know if it has to be called a manual, but a guideline, a series of guidelines, and Kendra Martin or someone like her would have that experience and background to know about how it's been done in other places. I think also there's a sense that maybe CSAC would like to stay involved and be part of the approval process. So unless, I mean, we can move it along unless there's a discussion that's going to take us into the other ones. Are we ready yet to get more specific, or do we still want to talk a little more about it? What do you think? Anybody?
I think
Okay,
Kim's
well,
hand is up.
I'm-
Kim's hand is up.
by
Sorry.
your
His
silence.
hands up and Kirk's hands up.
I was thinking, like, I'm kind of thinking like your C and your 3. I thought it would be nice if Councillor Kittredge could be involved, but because it was his idea, like, I agree with Grace on that. I'm thinking if it's like the staff, if Kendra already is kind of pulling things that are already from established programs, that would be good. I would like CSAC to maybe be involved with the grant or assessments, or to see how this project is running, maybe as a pilot project, if it could be set up with like a time frame where we can oversee it and see if it's running how we all kind of want to see it running, like from a community basis, that who wants to be involved are involved. That's kind of where I'm sitting, is on 3. But that's just my thoughts.
Kurt, I think you had your hand up before.
Yep, and my apologies for being late. I had a conflict of too many things happening at once. If this has been discussed already, my apologies. Just a clarification. So it looks like number 3, it looks like 1, 2, and 3 are all heading toward the same goal. Number 3 we can get to sooner because it's staff, like Kendra, putting it together. But it says community led. So my question would be around with number 3, what would that community outreach be in absence of a subcommittee or a task force? So I guess that's my question, is how are we still gathering community input and making sure it's community led when it is staff developing a plan?
Neil?
Yeah, so, and this is the hard part about doing it over 2 meetings. If you remember back to what Kendra proposed, she wants the youth council. So the mayor established the youth council after the last election. Now, COVID hit and that youth council has probably moved on, so they'll probably have to establish another one. But she wanted them to be a part of this, to go out into the community and to figure out what the community needed. And the other arm of the community input was neighborhood groups that would come She's looking at putting in together a program where they would apply. We have an idea. This is our idea. And then you see where that idea fits in the criteria, and it either gets approved or denied. And if you recall in the community grants, which was way, way back, there was some money that we had unspent that we talked about. This could be seed money for a project like this. So that would put some money away so that these neighborhood organizations could get started. So that would be the community outreach, those youth, plus the social media. And I think she had in there something else about the website and social media, about pushing it out to the community and soliciting their ideas, and then seeing where they fit in the criteria. But that criteria will be approved by council, or if you guys wish it to, be approved by this committee first and then go to council for final approval. But we'd get input here at this committee again before that would go to council. And that's basically what option 3 is saying.
Surely also Councillor Kittredge would be an ideal person to be kind of the spokesperson for the projects once they're underway. In other words, he would be a kind of a leader in making sure that people, a kind of a public face for the project in the sense that it's his baby, so to speak. Jennifer?
I think it was like a great initiative that was brought on by Councillor Kittredge. But I think, like at the end of the day, like it should be like the neighborhoods and that community-based approach and everything that shines and leads this through. So like, it sounds like that's what we're being offered in number 3, is that they will develop that community-led approach. And I think that would be our expectations, whether it comes back to us or whether it goes back to council. And then there's going to be those opportunities for engagement there. I don't know, like I was talking recently to somebody, and they had talked about Kitchener specific and their neighborhood programs and how it's all based around this asset-based community kind of model. And it is really focused on, finding kind of the strengths and everything within the neighborhoods and building those networks and relationships. And I think that's something that could be very successful. And it sounds like Kendra is also very aware of that. So I'm pretty confident.
You're breaking up for.
Sorry. So yeah, so I'm pretty confident that that's what she has in mind, is that community-led approach.
I think Brian's frozen. Is he frozen for everybody else or just me? So you weren't breaking up, Jennifer. I heard you clearly.
No.
You're back, Brian.
I'm in another building at my place, and I have a repeater here, which generally works. But anyway, everybody's back now. Okay. So I see, or I think that we're leaning towards number 3, or the third option. And is it time to actually make a motion and go on, or do we need to, are there other aspects of this that we're? So, Dean? I saw your hand up, Pat.
Oh, sorry, Brian. No, I was just giving the thumbs up that I agree with where we're at. I think we've had we've taken some mud out of the waters of not really knowing what this was, and I think we have a much better image on how this can move forward. And I totally agree with. I think the staff already has a platform in place that they have in mind, and we would certainly like to be involved in seeing how it takes shape. But I think they have the resources to, and a vision for how this will work for their community.
Okay. Could we create a motion that is number 3, but includes and the statement that CSAC would be part of the approval process? Carrie?
Through you, what I would suggest you do is, rather than be that specific, is add the phrase, if we're looking at number 3, that the Community Services Committee supports the Neighborhood Wellness Initiative introduced by Councillor Kittredge and recommends township staff develop a community-led grassroots neighborhood wellness program as presented by Kendra Martin, Communications Coordinator, in consultation with the Community Services Advisory Committee, including a webpage, social media campaign, and grant application process for council's approval. That way, the in consultation with allows staff to come back as often as they want to get this committee's, whether it's approval or support or thumbs up or just to keep you posted. I think in consultation with grasps everything that, I think what I'm hearing from the committee today, just that simple phrase means that staff would come back and consult every step of the way with the committee.
Great, well put. Any discussion of that? Anyone care to move that motion?
Jennifer's hands up.
Okay, Jennifer, are you commenting or do you want to make?
Oh, sorry. I was just putting my hand up as a mover.
Okay, seconder.
Kirk's got his thumb up. Kirk's got his thumb up.
Kurt, you're so dark there. I can only, you're just a silhouette. Okay.
I'm trying.
second.
I will second that. Yep.
Great. Thank you very much.
I'm mesmerized by
favor?
Pat in her sea of Center Wellington Rec and Parks logo.
Wow,
logo.
I'm really having bad. So, sorry, I didn't see your hands.
Meet in real life sometime.
Sorry, I didn't see your hands. So all in favor?
That's unanimous.
Great. Well, motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda. Community 6.1 community impact grants. An update on that.
That would be me, Brian. So over the last year or so, I've lost time. We have talked about updating the community impact grant policy. So I have been doing that. I have been reviewing other municipal policies and things of that nature, and I've created the current policy. So what I'd like to do is forward that updated policy to this committee for review so we can have discussion and hopefully move it at our next meeting in July, because we're getting into budgets in September, and that's about the time I issue the grant application process. So I really would like this committee's input. I know we talked about it at previous meetings, and I have various notes from many people, including my own. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to forward that out before the end of the week, maybe tomorrow, to the committee. And if you could review that policy and be prepared with any comments or changes or questions for the meeting in July, that would be fantastic. Okay. Good.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Next item is, unless anyone had anything they wanted to say. Okay. Next item is a letter from John Scott, and you've all seen that letter. I'm assuming this is, but we're certainly in a position where we can discuss it. I'm assuming this is an information item for us. Grace?
Sorry, I just had a question. I mean, is it something that we can have any input on, or is it I mean, the previous committee approved the funding to go to them as it was. So do we have, I mean, I can really appreciate his concerns, absolutely 100%. But do we have any right to change what's already in place?
Pat?
Yeah, I'll just provide a bit of background. So first of all, when we put an information item on the agenda, he requested this be shared at CSAC. So that's what staff have done. And it's up to you whether you want to pick that item up and discuss it or not. And John Scott also submitted 2 applications back when the CSAC applications were submitted. So I'm just going to ask Dorothy, because she was the one there that was accepting and discussing them, and the outcomes of that and such. He was one of the 22 applicants at the time. So Dorothy, are you prepared to discuss that piece? No?
What would you like me to talk about? So I can share with you, it's in the box at my feet. That, one sec. It's a really heavy binder. So 2 applications were submitted by Mr. Scott for the McDonald funding back in the day. Let me just get to that, sorry. He obviously was not awarded any money for either of these projects. There was some similarity to the Rockers project at Bissell Park with what he was kind of proposing with the surface of the ice pad. And then another organization submitted an application for similar projects within his project. So at the end of the day, he did not get any funding for either of his projects. I believe his total ask was just over 500,000. I don't have that right in front of me. I'm getting to it though. So there was one application for 308,000. Then, sorry, I just got to get to the other one. Carry on.
Well, anyone have any other comments on it? I'm assuming, as you said, Pat?
Yeah, I was just going to add to while she's looking up those numbers. So those applications were thoroughly reviewed by CSAC at the time of that evaluation process, and they selected the Bissell Park and the group that is putting on the project now. Since that was awarded in 2018, a lot of work has gone into the details of planning that, as well as an agreement, which is a document that outlines everything they have to do. So it's a little late in the game for CSAC to now make any recommendations or changes to that project. However, I know that John Scott has reached out to Matt Tucker over the last couple of years. I'm going to let him speak to that, but there is an emphasis here to make sure that when, some of the things at the Bissell Park project take into consideration, the basketball nets and the multi-use surface and things. But I would like, I don't want to put you on the spot, Matt, but I know that you have dealt and discussed these concerns in the past.
Yeah, sure, no doubt. I believe it was last summer, I had an opportunity to meet up with John Scott and another gentleman from the Celtics basketball association, and just listened to their concerns, and they wanted to be part of giving ideas moving forward. Obviously, a lot of things that Bissell Park have been put on hold. I know one of their concerns was obviously the board system and the placement of the basketball net, where, as people are going to lay up, it wouldn't be an issue where someone would run into the boards. And definitely I've taken that into consideration. And I said, once the plans start moving forward, where we have more concept drawings and we can get a better idea of where we can put the basketball nets to help work, so it won't be an issue down the road. And that's something important. I think I can speak for the Rockers, where they they want this as a multi-purpose court. So it's available for all different types of activities, and obviously basketball would be one of them. I know we sort of left that meeting that, once I do get those drawings, we'd set up another time to discuss and hopefully move forward and come to a compromise where, it would be beneficial for their Celtics program, and where it would help basketball in general with the kids playing. Also, just on top of John and Scott too, and their Celtics basketball program, I've also chatted with the farmers market and also Riverfest, other user groups of the park. So they have their input as well moving forward. So we've, as we move forward, we'll be including all the groups that are busy using Bissell Park.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Jennifer? Sorry, are
Yeah.
you still talking? I'm afraid you froze there.
Sorry, myself.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. Just to comment, I do think that in terms of looking at, I think we're too late. Like, that money has been approved and it's been approved by council. Hopefully there will be more granting opportunities in the future to bring more sports facilities to Center Wellington. I think that would be fantastic. But in terms of him as well, speaking about the price point and, the boards kind of distracting some kids from trying some sports, I think looking at the past year and how well the community and the township did specifically, and providing so many ice surfaces and stuff in Fergus and Elora throughout the winter, you saw a lot of comments about people getting out there of all ages, mixing up responsibly in different ages, and maybe putting on skates that they haven't to for so many years, or getting their young ones out on the skates for the first time. I think there's a lot of opportunities to continue those kind of things within those facilities. Hopefully that wasn't just for COVID. Hopefully we can continue to see those kind of outdoor facilities happen. And I think a lot of the concerns you would have in his letter here would be addressed through the continuation of a lot of those things that we saw this past winter that were done very well.
Okay. Can I just say something, Pat and Matt? Is there any possibility in the fullness of time of having a kind of a sign up for using that facility in the same way that tennis does? In other words, he spoke of but surely there would be a way to make that available for specific kinds of groups or specific age groups of hockey players or whatever. So, I mean, I just throw that into the mix.
Brian, I'm sorry, I didn't catch very much of what you said. It was quite broken up. It might have been my internet, but
No,
I'm
it
not,
was
I lost the
Brian's.
rest. Yeah, can you repeat that again? Sorry,
can't.
I didn't
Can you
catch
hear
what you
me
said.
right now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
And I might just move slightly afterwards. I'm right beside the repeater, but I was just wondering if in the interests of different ages and abilities of skaters and hockey players, that facility could have a sign-up type arrangement, much like we do with tennis, which allows. So I don't know the history of it, but maybe that's a possibility. Matt?
No, sure. Basically, how we've always had that the space at Bissell Park, it's basically open for everybody. So the nice thing you'll see during the summer, you'll see at one end kids shooting hoops, and at the other end, it could be a parent teaching a kid to roller skate, or people passing a lacrosse ball around. So that space is open, and I look at it very similar as the skate park, where you've got different age groups and different people with different skills working together and helping. You see the older kids helping out the younger kids, and I think it has been very receptive, and I think it's a great experience to have free play for all age groups where nothing is organized.
Okay, point taken. Neil, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, that's all I was going to say is it's meant as a passive recreation place where people can come up and play. I understand the issue with the boards, but I also know that you've got to have boards there when there's pickup hockey going on, because those pucks will fly and they could fly out to somebody who's just walking up on the street, because, you know, guys are out there doing whatever. I had noticed that this year with the ice rinks out, I was really proud of our community when people
Yeah,
just
well, I
came
agree with
on to
that.
skate.
For sure.
Other
Grace, did you
people
want to say
went to
something?
the other end and let the people skate so they weren't being hit by pucks. So I'm really happy the way that the people of this community interacted with each other, which makes me really pleased that this is an open recreation facility for basketball, lacrosse in the summer, rollerblading, all of that. So I leave it open the way it is. And we also have multi-purpose basketball and multi-purpose pads at the two community centers that people can go out and play on, right? Like we're building one up here at the Sportsplex, and I believe there's already a recreation pad at the Elora. So they're already in the community, and I think we're trying to cover everything off and to get too into it's got to be perfect for everybody. I haven't seen that yet, and I think we're too far down the rabbit hole to reverse this.
Okay. There, I give up. It wasn't something I felt strongly about. I just wondered. Dean?
And with some of John's concerns, I think we can kind of really look at the creativity of this group on how they're trying to bring an opportunity to be more inclusive with people that would not have the opportunity to go on the ice with being able to be outside the boards and being able to use the ice. John had concerns about how it goes to a small user group. Well, that's just for the winter season, right? So in the winter season now, we're getting an opportunity to get younger people involved, new families involved that might not have access to the sport, right? So I think this is a great way to provide that for our community. And as well, we have to keep in mind that this facility is not for minor sport groups to use or rent. This is 100% for recreation to people to come use at their leisure for free. Very similar to how the skateboard park is, right? You don't have to book your time there or anything like that. It's for everybody to use as they wish in an appropriate manner. So there's a great opportunity there as well. But I think we can also just put a little bit more importance on that. It's not just a hockey rink. It's a full year-round facility that can be used as a surface for, as Matt said, for anybody in the community to come use. So I think it really does. Sure. It really does open up to more than just, that's how John kind of phrased it, just kids that play hockey, where I think the angle is that we're trying to involve recreation for all, which is an important.
Yeah, I drove by today and there was a lot of basketball going on, so that's a good thing. Okay, do we have any further comments about this? This was, I believe, an information only discussion. Grace?
It seems to me that one of his big concerns is the aesthetic of it, and that certainly boards. But there's nothing, I guess, Neil, and I mean, as a multi-purpose surface, which is what he's in support of as well, but then the hockey boards around it all the time really does, I'm sorry, but make it a little bit ugly in that beautiful park. But I suppose there's nothing to be done about that. Because that seems to me to be a big concern of his, is the aesthetic of it when it is meant to be an all year round multi-purpose pad. So I think anything that could be done to take that into consideration, certainly. Matt, you said you're going to be meeting with various people as it's developed. It certainly should be taken into consideration if possible.
Matt?
And I think as we work through the project, hopefully we can do some landscaping, just just to make it not look like it stands out. And just, I know with the elevation, we're sort of, we're working on a bit of a hill. And I know in talks with the design, they're looking at some sort of armor stone to help level some of the landscaping off, and also looking at trees in different locations just to really help with that. And just, I know the thought, and I believe we chatted about this, just, to make it when people are out skating around the outside of the rink for like a bit of a public skate, so to speak, where we could have it lit up in a way where it looks aesthetically pleasing.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, so I gather, as this is a point of information.
Brian.
Oh, Kirk.
Yeah, sorry. I think you're on a delay there, Brian.
Right. No, just the really good points made, but decisions were made in the past in terms of what that was going to be. So it's going to be great that considerations can be made for the aesthetics, but also the decisions are made in terms of what that's going to be, and with the rockers and their grant and putting the boards up. So that's what it is. So it's good if they can take into consideration, but we got to move forward with what decisions were made for what that's going to be.
Okay. Unless there's anything else, shall we move forward? I'm up next with an update on the Healthy Growth Advisory Committee. This committee is having a bit of a renaissance. We had a really interesting meeting this morning in which we had 4 local developers. They had some really good insights into what they need in order to develop more rapidly, and with and that's the ability to, I guess, not have such complex rules and regulations, to do it in a more timely fashion. Do it meaning develop buildings. So it was a good, frank discussion. We learned a lot. I think we learned things that we maybe hadn't considered. Our previous discussions had largely been around incentives. Those 4 developers said the greatest incentive would be allow them to get on with building buildings, not holus bolus, but I mean within the context of good planning and in the appropriate locations. So it was I think it was a good meeting. The committees have been meeting and looking at options from other places. I'd say that by the end of the summer we should have a fairly firm go forward set of recommendations. So I leave it at that, but there was a lot of people were feeling very positive this morning. So any questions about that, the Healthy Growth Group? Okay. Kurt, return to you about the indoor turf facility.
I have a nil report.
Okay. Council update. Thanks, Kurt. Neil?
Thank you, Brian. And so all the hard work you did last meeting with the McDonald grants went to council and they accepted them all. So everything was accepted. There was some discussion on what we talked about tonight because we had kept this one back. So we'll have a hearty discussion on what we've approved today when that goes to the next council meeting. And so council is just now starting to get into the budget process, which will be coming forward, which is why Dorothy wants to talk to us about the grant stuff, because very soon we'll start our budget meetings and start that process early. In addition, one of the big things we're working on is a procedural bylaw, which I wanted to make this committee aware of, because eventually when we get that established, a procedural bylaw is how we run our meetings, and it does flow down to the committees. So you might want to have a peek at that draft legislation that's up there, and there's a public meeting on that on the 14th, right? Am I right? It's 14th. And you can listen in there. We have a couple of experts that we've hired who I have found to be incredibly knowledgeable, and they've helped us through a lot of troubling spots so far, and hopefully they can help us get over the, across the finish line and get a procedural bylaw that everybody can be happy with. So those are the big things we're working on from council.
Okay. Parks and facilities update.
Okay, sounds good. So staff have been working on 3 different commercial access agreements. The Elora raft rides passed at last council meeting. And so basically, just to give you a bit quick background, this ride is a guided riverbug raft tour that starts off in Confederation Park in Fergus. And it makes its way down the river to Elora, where people get out at Bissell Park. This has been going on for the past 5 years or so, and things are going quite well. Also, staff are working on 2 other commercial access agreements, which we're hoping to get to committee of the whole for June. And one is the 1X agreement. 1X, they do rappelling, zip lining, ice climbing, team activities in Victoria Park in Elora. And that's been going on 10 plus years, I believe now. So yeah, we're just, we're working on that. Also, the third agreement is, it's with a new company, and it's the Elora, Elora Rapids. And it's basically, it's a tube ride. And we're just trying to work on that agreement. And basically, just a quick background on what they're trying to do is they're going to be running out of the parking lot at the raceway, where people will be given a tube. They'll jump on a bus and get dropped off at Blair Park. They'll jump in and blow their tube up at that location, jump in the river, and they'll float their way down to Bissell Park, where a bus will pick them up when they're finished up there and take them back to their cars back at the raceway. So that's, yeah, we're just trying to finalize those 2 agreements and get them to the June meeting. Another item, the vaccine clinic is looking to use Pad B into the fall. So that would might use some of our ice season. So we're doing as staff, we're looking at other municipalities north of us where we can try and secure some ice for our user groups. And as it gets closer and closer, we're going to try and ensure and secure some ice for those user groups for their programs. We're trying to keep in good contact with the clinic, just to sort of give us a better idea, because it's been a bit of a moving target. We've heard different dates. So the way the clinic is going now, they're happy the way those numbers are coming. So hopefully we don't have to look at securing any ice. But with that, we're going to be sending just a letter off to our user groups, just to give them a heads up that this is what we're planning, and we'll hear more from that. And I'll give more of an update at the next meeting just to give everyone an update to where we are with that. Also, just at the last council meeting, council approved Center Wellington Hydro and Center Wellington Communications to complete the upgrades at the Center Wellington Community Sportsplex grounds. This project, you guys are probably aware, it's where the Scottish Festival was successful in receiving grant money to upgrade the hydro, water, and communications at the grounds at the Sportsplex. So that was awesome. That passed. We're moving forward. We're just going to finalize memorandum of agreement with all groups involved. And once that is signed, sealed, and delivered, we'll get that project going. And finally, some good news here. Just over the next week and a half, you're going to see our staff busy beautifying Center Wellington. So Our greenhouse is at full capacity. We're bursting at the seams, and yeah, we're looking forward to getting some color out throughout Center Wellington. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Matt, how many days a week or how often is the arena being used for the vaccine clinics?
Right now, it's 3 times a week, and just to give you an idea, so typically all the way through, it's been three times a week. When it first started, it was about 400 people through in a day. And today, for an example, so for the past 3 weeks, we've had 800 plus, and today they were putting through 1,000 people. So
wow,
it's things are booming. It's great. It's good to see. Nice to see people coming in. They're in a great mood when they're coming in, and it's you see some of the older population coming in now for their second dose, mixed in with the younger crew coming in for their first. So it's great. Everyone's in a good mood up there.
oh, that's great. Thanks, Matt. Any other questions or concerns? I guess
Jennifer has her hand up.
Sorry, Jennifer, go ahead.
Thanks. Matt, I just have a question. I know there's a few parks that have been approved for upgrades this year, including my own neighborhood park, Barrier Park. Has anything been scheduled for those parks, like in terms of like construction start dates or anything like that?
That process has not started yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been busy trying to finalize a couple other park projects. Just to give you an idea, we've just finished up O'Brien Park. There's a couple deficiencies we have to finish up with the washroom, but today the splash pad in Elora got turned on. There was kids and families just waiting in line to get on there. And this Curvin Park, which is a new park that we made an agreement with the developer to have that built. So we're just working on the finalization of that one, as well as Grandwood Park in Elora. It's another Right Haven project, which Right Haven has donated that playground equipment. So we've been working on that. So once that definitely your neighborhood park and the one in Douglas, we have been talking about it internally, and we're hoping to get on that one fairly soon.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that Douglas and Farrier Park, just so we're all clear, that is only equipment swap out. So the equipment is at life end, new equipment is coming in. It is not a full park redevelopment project, which I think some people thought it was. And it is simply just what we normally do when equipment comes to end of life, we replace it. So that's what's going to happen at those parks versus what's happening, for example, at Forfar Park, which is a brand new park, and play equipment, fitness equipment, path, picnic shelter, all that will be placed in Forfar Park. And we're also trying to get that to a tendering situation. So we're pushing that one through too. Thanks.
Great. If there's nothing else for Matt, Dorothy, cultural and special events. You need to unmute, Dorothy.
Thought I clicked it, sorry. As we all know, there are no special events. So I have nothing to report there. I mentioned at the last meeting, we're working closely with both Rotary clubs to organize some events for Canada Day. We had our first meeting of both groups together, which went really well, and everybody's on board and excited to offer some programming for Canada Day. We're shying away from some virtual stuff. I think everybody has done that and tired of it. So we're just looking at just some, house decorating, garden competitions, things of that nature. So it's going really well, and we will have some activities for Canada Day. So I'm happy about that. if you have been out to some of our parks lately, we did have some new signs installed at the end of last year in our bigger parks. I've been working with Matt on that project, and we've got a whole slew of new signs being now this year. And we just found out that the price of steel has doubled. So now we've got to cut back our signs in half this year compared to what we did last year. So like wood, steel is now through the roof. So that's a project we're trying to resolve and at least get some more signs on board in our parks this year. And we're also installing a couple more wayfinding signs. And one of the parks we're looking at is Forfar. So I need to talk to Matt about that and see if we can get one in that park, because we think it would be a good spot for one. And like everybody else, we're sitting anxiously waiting for stage 1 to open. The minute we know the date for stage 1, we will be reopening the tourism office and calling back staff to get it open, which is great. And then our road closure for Pover's Lane in Fergus will be in effect the minute stage 1 hits. And the road closures in Elora will take effect as soon as stage 1 is in effect. So we're sitting waiting for Doug to make that announcement, and it can't come quick enough. So that's all I have for now.
Thanks, Dorothy. Amen to your sentiments. Pat?
Thanks. And I was just going to add to Dorothy, that's unless he tells us at 9 o'clock on Friday PM that we have to open it for 12 a.m. on Saturday. Then they might not be all up and open yet.
It'll be the following weekend.
Yeah, he likes to make late Friday announcements and as of Saturday at 12 a.m. But anyways, yes, opening is great. So that just is a great segue to my first item, which is the roadmap to reopening. In your agenda, I attached 2 links, which are to 2 different framework documents that have been produced by the province, and walk you through what can open and cannot open at the different stages. And when they make a change, like let's open splash pads, after the original road map was released, that document then gets updated online as well. So those are good documents to continue to follow. There's no indoor recreation permitted until step 3, which is targeted if we move through the stages as prescribed in the roadmap to be around July 25th. Step 1 does include outdoor fitness classes and training for up to 10 people in outdoor spaces, maintaining, I believe, 3-meter space. Step 2 increases that to 25 and allows for some outdoor sport leagues to begin. So we cannot wait for all of that to get on board, and our fields have never looked better. So we're excited about that. The exception to indoor programming is day camps, and they will be offered in Centre Wellington from July 5th to August 6th. So due to the vaccine clinic and limited spaces, we had to reduce the number of weeks we could offer camp, but the province just released their ministry standards for offering day camps. So registration will be opening very soon for those day camp weeks. The majority of the camps will be held in Elora this year because of the vaccine clinic taking place at the Sportsplex. And parents are going to be made aware that, plans could change on short notice, whether that's because a vaccine clinic changes or a COVID outbreak or something. So, but we're really excited. We could not run day camps in March breaks. The last 2 March breaks are last summer. So very excited to be offering that this summer. The park openings. Oh, wait, Matt stole my thunder. So that's okay, Matt. You answered the question and everything in there is great. We're very excited these parks are coming on board. Basically, the CSAC schedule is normally that we don't meet over the summer, but we had a bit of a gap during COVID of not meeting. So we have a number of items to catch up on. One being the CIG grants, which Dorothy mentioned, kind of due to council by September to be applied in the budget. We also have to create some OLG grant terms of reference by the budget so that in September, so we have those OLG funds which have been allocated to arts and culture, and we need to create a framework to have a process to grant that money out. And we'll also be involved in the Elora Community Center pre-design project. So as we roll into those renovations and get the architect on board, that will happen over the summer. So some major projects. So unfortunately, we probably will have to have meetings over July and August. We have other projects we're working on as a public tree bylaw. It's a bylaw to protect trees in Central Wellington, the publicly owned trees, not private trees. Staff are completing the draft, and this will be circulated to CSAC when it's ready. Council directed staff to have public engagement about this bylaw. So this will be done through CW Connect in a number of ways to communicate out to the public, a short survey to understand if they their support or questions they may have before the bylaw goes to council for consideration. Park naming policy is something else that we're looking at. So in the fall, we're going to be bringing a park naming policy. It's currently we have a park naming procedure, but it's never been written as a policy. And we've had a couple of requests for park namings, and it is brought to our attention that council needs to adopt a policy for park naming. So we'll be bringing that, but first we'll bring it to CSAC for your consideration before it goes to council. I think that's pretty much all I had to update the group on. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any hands? Well, I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Pat. That was good. Lots of good news. The next meeting is, of course, the first Wednesday in July, but I don't have a calendar in front of me, but is that the 4th or the 5th? Something like that. Anyway, it's the first.
If we could just defer to Devlin, is he still here with us?
Yeah,
Or
that would be the 7th.
7th? Okay. Great. Mark that in your calendars. Unless there's anything else. Sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Nope, I'm not here on the 7th, but you guys can march forward without me, I'm sure. Yeah, all good. Thanks.
So unless there's any other business, anyone have any other concerns, we can adjourn the meeting and agree to meet again. Then I'm just going to. Yeah, I see him.
I'm also not here on the 7th. Not that it's all about me and Pat, but perhaps a check in with the group, because we might end up with a very small group and may make more sense to reschedule early. So just thought I'd bring that up.
Anyone have a conflict? Anyone else have a conflict on July 7th?
I hope my social calendar gets full, but not so far.
Maybe not by then. Okay, well, I'm assuming then we'll go ahead on July 7th, and because we'll have a quorum. That's great. Well, enjoy these wonderful days of June, and we've gone through some interesting material tonight and made some good, I think, decisions. Thanks for Carrie and Pat and Dorothy and Matt's input and Devlin. And thanks again, Neil, for your wisdom from council. And I think I found out what was happening with my computer. Something was actually blocking my repeaters. A physical entity was in the way. So it cleared right up as soon as I moved it. So anyway, high-tech world that I live in. Anyway, good to see everybody, and we'll talk again soon.
Be safe.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.